Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us at this time. Now, first of all, I want to talk about Indonesia in the context of ASEAN. ASEAN integration, maybe we can start with Tan Sri first. With Indonesia being the engine of growth in ASEAN and in Southeast Asia, or could be engine of growth for the region, what sort of challenges faced by Jokowi moving forward?
Well, it is the largest economy in ASEAN, about $900 trillion US. It has been growing and has been growing pretty steadily, although I think this coming year the growth rate's been revised downwards to about 5.3, 5.5%. Yet, given its size and its market, it is a great potential for ASEAN. On the other hand, it's an economy which is structured in such a way that the small and medium enterprises form the backbone of the economy. They employ up to 97% of the working population, the SMEs. So there will be a fear in Indonesia that in an opened sort of economy in the region, they might be inundated, But the point is that inundation will come, not just from other ASEAN countries. Americans are looking in, Japanese are looking in, so they have to become more efficient, and they have to sort of face up, to the competition. And I think whatever reservations they have, they realize, they have to face up to the competition, and at the same time, look at the opportunities that their companies will have in relation to a larger ASEAN economy, about 2.4 trillion, growing very 5.5%, seventh largest economy in the world, and by 2030, at this rate of growth, ASEAN will be the fourth largest economy in the world after the EU, China, and US. Most importantly, ASEAN has 50% of its population under 30. As it grows, we have this young population. The demographic dividend will be delivered, more importantly, in terms of the demand, consumer demand of services and goods of this young, vibrant population. So lots of things, for production of goods and services to meet this demand in the growing economy. And then with ASEAN actually being probably the regional center of economic growth in the world, wow, the opportunity is fantastic.
But if you look at the GDP growth trend for Indonesia for the past few years, it's decreasing if you look at the trend. So will that tarnish whatever we have planned for the ASEAN as a whole?
Well, the danger is they might be over-obsessed with their economic problems, such that they do not give due attention or commitment to the AEC. One of the biggest problems is the growth is one thing that goes up and down, is the fiscal deficit.
Yes.
And that has been going up. And the last sort of forecast is a fiscal deficit about 2.3, 2.4% of GDP. And that fiscal deficit is likely to increase if the fuel subsidies remain. Now, then the danger is under the Constitution. The deficit cannot be more than 3%. So the first big test for domestic economic management, political too, of course, will be how he's going to deal with the subsidies, fuel subsidies. There's talk that it needs to be they need to be brought down to by about 3,000 rupiahs per litre, and these are about 20-30 cents US dollars, quite big for Indonesia. There might be problems. There have been problems before, and there have been demonstrations. Now, will Jokowi be able to make his people understand why this has to be done? He tried to get SBY to do it before he left, but SBY politely refused to do so.
It's very unpopular, but it's a must. It's a must.
We had the same problem here, right? Subsidies, deficits, and
this way.
He'll have to do it. Being the people's president, perhaps he was able to communicate and make them understand, better than those who are remote, from the people.
Yes.
But then the other problem is, the Majlis Perwakilan Rakyat, or the Legislative Assembly is stacked against him. What will they do in this situation? And all the friendships of recent times. He visited Prabowo, for his 63rd birthday. He went to Prabowo's house, and he received Abu Rizal Bakri, a gold car, in his office. And he mentioned Prabowo by name in his inauguration address. So he's, making friends, trying to be nice. But time will come when hard decisions will be made and positions will be taken.
Yes.
And that's when the test comes. And with ASEAN, they might use ASEAN as a whipping boy, for their own domestic problems. And so you need a president who's able to ride over this tendency.
Yes. I want to ask on ASEAN BAC, because the recent 2015 budget announced by the Prime Minister, Syed Nabil Aljeffri, it's focusing on the people. It's called People's Economy. So Jokowi has almost the similar approach. So how can both countries work together, especially through ASEAN BAC, between ASEAN BAC Malaysia and ASEAN BAC Indonesia, to work together to promote more, say for instance, entrepreneurship?
First off, ASEAN Business Advisory Council is obviously supposed to stimulate private sector connectivity between two countries. But more relevant to your question is, it is well documented that Jokowi is the people's president, as what Tan Sri mentioned. He did not come from the elite. He did not come from he wasn't a supreme or senior military commander to have taken office. And it'll be interesting that his rule is to be people-centric, and that is similar with that of Malaysia, especially in the upcoming chairmanship of Malaysia of ASEAN, where it's supposed to be focused around the people's importance, the importance of the people and the needs of the people. And I believe through similar traits between Malaysia and Indonesia, I think there are a lot of industries that we could work on together between two countries, such as maybe agriculture, technology transfer, skilled labor. That's another benefit. I mean, we have similar languages, similar culture. I think it's quite seamless for us to collaborate together. And most importantly, I think another point that Tan Sri highlighted earlier was that the importance of proper assistance for the SMEs for both countries. I think if President Jokowi can sort that out internally to provide the the necessary assistance and platform for the SMEs to collaborate with Malaysian SMEs, I think we'll be able to unlock a lot of potential in terms of relationship between the two countries.
Okay, then we are also talking about investment, because Indonesia currently, based on what analysts have said, that Jokowi is focusing on high impact or high value investment in Indonesia. They are focusing on a country in South Korea, say for instance. But how can Malaysia also participate in investing in Indonesia?
Well, we are already there. In terms of financial sector, we have two big banks, operating in Indonesia. We have plantation companies operating there. I think what we can do is those who are already there must show a greater sense of commitment to Indonesian needs. For example, banks. I mean, we know the SMEs need finance. The SMEs even need tutorials about how to keep books, how to apply for bank loans. If they gave time to SMEs and a space in the asset book for loans to SMEs, it would not only be to their benefit, it would be to the benefit of the SMEs, and it will have an overall ability to generate a sense of goodwill. That's one area. To generate that kind of goodwill will be to the advantage. The other thing is, we must remember that Indonesia also wants a sense of reciprocity. They allowed our banks to control their banks. When Mandiri wanted to come over, it had a problem, because we required that their capital investment should be of a certain size, which they felt was too large, given their expectation of what business they might generate, from that capital investment. So then they got a bit upset, So you can do things and things can work in AEC for a while, but then at some point, if somebody feels, you're not being fair to me, I've done this, you haven't done enough, there will be some problems. It's inevitable that it will arise, but we should be conscious of what we should be doing as well, to generate goodwill with
I want to talk more about ASEAN and ASEAN and Indonesia as the engine of growth. and also from the view of ASEAN BAC. But that's all the time we have for today. We're going to talk. We're going to keep in touch together to talk about Indonesia in the coming future. All right, AEC is next year. We are the chairman, so we're going to work together very closely after this. So thank you so much for your time.